All right, guys, so in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly how I coach my clients. And it's important that I make this video because most people who consider themselves coaches aren't really coaching. They're shotgunning out generic ChatGPT programs to people, modifying one or two things, and then giving them 8 weeks of training at a time. They don't do this because it's effective. They do it because they're influencers who want to get the most amount of money out of the least amount of work. Now, that stuff doesn't really work, and you may have experienced that. So I'm going to explain to you why that type of programming sucks and what actually gets results. A lot of people come to me and ask me about my programs, but I don't make programs. I coach my athletes. Now, when you're just getting a pre-made program from someone, there are a lot of limitations. One, there's no accounting for what happens in your schedule that week. So if you have 4 training sessions lined up and you can only accomplish 3 of them, you might miss something important. But because I'm programming for you weekly, we're going to make sure that we are able to condense the training in a way that works for you that week so that you don't miss anything. And 2, the most important part of training is that the exercises, reps, sets, and methodology that are applied are individualized to you. Now, with a generic program, it's assuming so many things about you that might not even be true. We have to take a look at your individual body type, your training history, your injuries, what you respond to, equipment, schedule. There's a million different factors. Now, this is not stuff that you can just guess on because you're leaving at least half of your progress on the table. And training doesn't work well when it's done that way. It has to be individualized. It has to be a puzzle that's put together for you, which then skyrockets your progress. And it's not like it's just a 10% difference. It is a night and day difference. This is why my clients go from benching 185 to 365 or dropping 60 pounds of fat while getting stronger. Most people think that stuff isn't achievable, but it's because they've been doing generic basic programming. So here's how I do it. When we first meet, I'm going to figure out as much as I can about you. Age, height, and weight, schedule, equipment, injuries, training history, everything that I can possibly figure out that's going to be relevant to our training. But I'm also looking at what our ultimate goal is. And this is going to help me plan out a rough draft of the steps that are going to happen for us to get there. Now, the important thing is that I'm only giving you a week of training at a time in my app. And there are 2 reasons for this. One, because I have to be able to know what's going on with your schedule that week. People get sick, they go on vacation, they have family obligations. So I have to be able to know that so that I can then make sure that your training is optimal for that week based on your schedule, the equipment that you're going to have, and a million other factors. But as long as I know what's going on with you that week, I can make sure that the training is optimal so that we're never running into roadblocks and leaving progress on the table. So if you're traveling for a week, I'm not just going to give you generic body weight or hotel gym workouts. I'm still going to curate the training in line with what we're working on in that training block given the equipment and schedule changes. Now, the second reason is because I'm going to review every single thing you do in the gym every single week in your training log. So I'm going to see what's working, what isn't working, and then make sure that I apply the right tool to the stuff that we're getting stuck on so that next week you make forward progress. Now, on the flip side of that, if I were to give you 8 weeks of training at a time, it might become apparent 3 weeks in that something's not working. But if I were to give you 8 weeks of workouts, now we've got 5 weeks of progress left on the table. But since I'm doing it week to week, we can automatically break through that plateau so that we can take things to the next level every single time we're in the gym. And this is why you're going to make such unbelievably fast progress. It's not because there's any kind of magic to it. It's just that I'm optimizing your training every single time you're in there. I'm going to look at your logs and your training videos, and I'm going to be able to see what your bar path looks like, what exercises work best for you, what your body type is like, where you're getting stuck. And this is going to help me determine how much weight, reps, and sets you're going to use in the following week to make sure that we continue to make progress. But I'm not just tracking your lifts. I'm looking at your weigh-ins, your progress photos, your subjective feedback, and your nutrition, and triangulating all this information to make sure that we are exactly on track. What I'm doing is I'm taking 100% of the guesswork out of your training so that all you have to do is get in there and execute the plan. And the app that I use makes it incredibly simple because when I plug your workouts in, all you have to do is open it up, see what you have to do that day, log the training, and then I do all my nerd stuff on the back end and make sure that we're making progress. So again, the idea is to make it as simple and executable as possible for you so that you don't have to waste all the mental energy on figuring out what to do and you can focus on all the other important parts of your life. Now this brings me to nutrition. So I'm going to tell you exactly what foods to eat at each meal, the amounts, and the macros. The food is going to be timed so that we're eating the right things at the right times in each meal to sustain your training, sustain muscle growth, and not sustain body fat. Now the meal plan is also going to be flexible, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what recipes you need to eat. I'm going to tell you things like, hey, This meal is 1 cup of rice and 6 ounces of meat, and you and your family can prepare it however works best for you. But the important part is the amounts that we're eating. A lot of guys come to me severely under eating with crushed metabolisms, especially when they're trying to lose fat. All the time I talk to guys who are 250 pounds and they're only eating enough to sustain a 120-pound girl, but they're not losing fat. The reason is because when you're chronically under eating, you are suppressing your metabolism. And now, not only are you not losing body fat, but you're also losing muscle mass, and you're not able to train hard enough to get stronger. So what we have to do is build your metabolism. We have to stoke that fire. If you don't have enough wood in the fire and you don't have enough air flowing in, it's gonna smolder. So sometimes we have to add more sticks, food, and air, training, to stoke that fire and build your metabolism up. Now, if you've ever dieted before, you've probably run into this problem where you're under eating, your training sucks, and you're not losing anything. But if we can build your metabolism up, now you can train harder, you can build or maintain muscle mass, and you can lose body fat with a higher calorie amount. So you don't have to be constantly starving and lacking energy to lose fat. Because if you're a grown man and you're in the gym, you have no business eating 2,000 calories or less. So to build your metabolism up, I'm going to set your proteins and your fat amounts and then adjust your carbohydrates based on what we want to happen with your body weight. So if we start at a maintenance dose of carbohydrates and then we drop it down incrementally, we can still train hard while losing fat. Then I'm going to take a maintenance amount of carbohydrates and reduce them slightly so that you can start losing body fat but still have the energy to train hard and build muscle mass. So what's going to happen is you will start to lose body fat but still be able to train, and then once that fat loss stalls, we just bring the carbs down a little bit more. And then when it stalls again, we bring them down a little bit more until the point we are the leanest we could possibly be, but also the strongest we could possibly be. Then we can transition into a growth phase where you're more insulin sensitive and you have a great strength to body weight ratio. And now instead of carbs making you feel slow and tired, they're gonna make you feel pumped up and energetic so you can build a bunch of muscle and get really freaking strong. Now here's the secret to staying lean while you build muscle mass. What a lot of people will do is they'll add 1,000 calories to their diet. The problem is that if you could only build 200 calories worth of muscle a day, but you're eating an extra 1,000, now we have 800 calories that are just going to making us fat. So just like when we were losing fat, now we're just gonna bump the carbs up a little bit at a time, commensurate with you getting stronger and your check-in photos looking better. What this allows us to do then is build you throughout the entire year without having to do these drastic 4-month bulks and 4-month cuts where you're just taking 1 step forward and 1 step back. Now I could lay out the perfect training plan for you, the perfect nutrition plan for you, but if you're not following it, it means nothing. But if every single time you're in the gym, you're filling in your log and you know that there's somebody on the other end reviewing what you're doing, you're much more likely to stick to the plan. Men work best when they're on a team, and my training is no different. Not only am I going to be holding you accountable, but because you're seeing the progress happen, you're going to become addicted to training. You're not going to want to cheat on your diet because you're seeing the results in the mirror. But I also need to be able to support you. So think of me and my other coaches as your performance advisors. We have decades of expertise in strength, physique, and conditioning training. My team is highly skilled and highly experienced, and they've proven themselves in their own athletic endeavors. If you have any kind of problem or you need any kind of modification to your training, we're going to be there for you whenever you need it. We're constantly communicating in the app. You're going to be able to text me on my personal cell number, and we're going to be checking in with you every single week. So you're going to have a custom training plan constantly optimized for you to make continued progress throughout the year, as well as a nutrition plan that's built for you to make sure that you're losing fat and building the muscle that you want. And you're going to have access to me and my other coach to make sure that you never have to guess on what to do. And when you're feeling unmotivated, we're going to give you some tough love and make sure you stay on track. Essentially what you're signing up for is for me to take my 15 years of training knowledge, download it into your program and say, hey, if I were you, this is exactly what I would be doing this week. So you always have 2 coaches with a bird's eye view of everything that you're doing to make sure that it's perfect. So if you've been wasting your time with generic training programs and you want to get serious and lock in and take things to that next level, one-on-one coaching is the best way to do it. But big changes take time. I don't work with my athletes on a month-to-month basis. We're going to commit to each other for a period of time so that we can bring you from point A to point B. We are results and outcome focused. My job is to take you from where you are to where you want to be as quickly and efficiently as possible. And that's exactly what you're going to get when you're one of my clients. This isn't me writing you a program and saying have at it. This is legitimate one-on-one coaching. But we don't take just anybody on. We have to make sure that you are committed and that you're going to follow through. That's why before we start, we're going to do a call to make sure that you're somebody that we can work with. Now, I don't care how strong you are, how much experience you have, or if you're a newbie to the gym. What matters to me is, do you have the mindset to stick to the plan and make it happen even when it's tough? Because training isn't something that you do for a couple of weeks and then fall off when things get difficult. And if that's been you in the past, having someone in your corner that's holding you accountable is exactly what you need to make long-term, lasting progress.